Quit Your Damn Job with McCall Taylor.
I was paying for classes, and that if I didn't get good grades, no one gave a rat's. So I'm the CEO of Ogden's own distillery in Ogden, Utah. We make about 12 different craft spirits.
That's awesome. You know, you guys got a lot of attention this last year, thanks to some of the really cool stuff that you were doing with hand sanitizers, right?
Yeah. When the pandemic hit, the federal government authorized distilleries around the country to start making hand sanitizer. And that happened on Wednesday, if you're in Salt Lake, the day of the earthquake, March 17th or 18th, sorry. I remember it quite well because I usually work from home on Wednesdays. And because my building was shaking like crazy all day, I headed to work. And that afternoon, we got notification from the feds that we could make hand sanitizer. And by that weekend, we had hand sanitizer for sale in our distillery. And then, we've been doing it ever since. We've made over 30,000 gallons of it.
Wow.
This summer. And we've, distributed down to the Navajo Nation during the peak of their outbreak. And, we're helping some teachers out, nonprofits and stuff now. And we just keep doing it.
I love it. I think it's really cool, the things that you are doing. Can you honestly say that you are happy doing what you're doing?
Sure.
Beautiful.
You know what? Everything's a job, right?
Absolutely.
If you have to spend, I don't know. I was watching, recently Eddie Van Halen passed, right?
Yeah.
And I was watching a few videos about him because that's what we do now when people pass away. We go to YouTube and reacquaint ourselves with them.
Yeah.
And, I got the sense, he was 65 and I watched a couple interviews, and I think even with Eddie Van Halen, who was super passionate about guitars, some days it was work.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I think with every job, every role, I should say, every role can have aspects that are a job, and I'm the CEO. I'm responsible for a lot of stuff: payroll, reporting, government reporting, that sort of stuff. And some days, it's a grind. But, one thing this pandemic has taught me is that I'm more social than I thought I was.
Yeah.
I used to gripe about having to go out and do events and, 4 or 5 times a week we were at something, and it's like, oh, I'm so tired of just dealing with people. And, you learn there's another side of the coin. You can be stuck inside, not talking to anybody, and that there's no fun there either.
No.
So I love what we do. I love building a business.
Yeah.
I love that we're doing good things in our community. I love the people I work with. It's honestly, I can say I've done quite a few things in my life, and this has been the most challenging thing. Not just recently, but just as a small little company going up against all the big dogs in the world. The alcohol business is billions and billions of dollars, and we're just a little bit, little player in it. So I love the challenge. And I always tell my staff, if you can't have fun in the alcohol industry, you're probably not doing it right.
Yeah.
And so anytime we're not having fun, I try to step back and go like, all right, let's make sure we're having fun with it. And, I really miss the concerts. I miss the things that we were going to be involved in this last summer. We were sponsoring, I think, 4 different concert series this summer that all got canceled. And, it was going to be, I called it, it's going to be my summer of music. And, because I love live music, and to have all that kind of disappear just in the blink of an eye, has been, well, let's just say we weren't happy about it.
Right.
But in general, I'd say, I'm having a lot of fun doing what we do.
Good.
And it's been an adjustment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is this something that you think that you've always wanted to do since you were a kid, or?
Nope, not at all.
Really?
No. So Tim Smith, who is our blender distiller who makes all of our products, was an acquaintance of mine. And it was really his dream. And he had been trying to bring underground, the first product we made to market for a while. And, Tim was just a guy I got to know at some parties, at social events.
Uh-huh.
And we sat down one day and had lunch. And my passion is more about building businesses. It's about, my passion has been, well, you know what? My passion, I'm like a guy, I am a guy. You
Uh-huh.
give me a problem, I'm going to just work on it and chew on it and try to solve it. And when Tim came to me with this problem, the problem was, how do we start a distillery in Utah? I just sunk my teeth into it, and I became passionate about starting up this business, and now passionate about running the business and the challenges that come along with it. And you may or may not be aware, we've just opened a new 34,000 square foot facility up in Ogden, which took 2.5 years. And so that passion for building something, growing it, creating a unique environment. We're in the process of finishing out the bar area that's going to be in it right now, and it's problem solving. It's detail oriented decision making every day. And so that's where my passion is like, how do we sink our teeth into these challenges? Luckily, I like to drink too, so it worked out.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Though I don't drink nearly as much as people would think I do.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Where did you first discover your passion for the problem solving end of things?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I feel like I'm so just normal in that, people like to solve things. They want to fix things.
Yep.
And I've always been a hard worker. I've been a guy, I had a paper route at 12 years old type thing. And then I became a dishwasher at a restaurant, and then I worked for a Dairy Queen. And then I've worked since I was 15 or 13 with that paper route. And I would say that when I had a paper route, I wasn't a problem solver because, the problem was people were not getting their papers too late because I had a lazy kid pulling a little red wagon around town delivering papers,
Yeah.
I think it happened somewhere in college that I was paying for. When I realized that, I was paying for classes, and that if I didn't get good grades, no one gave a rat's behind, and that I needed to make sure that what I was pursuing was what I wanted to do, because no one cared. And when I say that, it's not that people in my life didn't care, but
no, but people don't care if you succeed or if you fail. You're the only one that has to live back and look back and say, okay, so I succeeded and I did what I wanted to do.
Exactly. There's a certain point where you just have to take personal responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
And I know people in their 50s and 60s who have yet to figure that out. And I know people who are 18 who they have it all together, so I think the sooner you realize no one thinks about you as much as you think they think about you, the better off you are. And then you just take responsibility for your own shit, and you're so much better off than if you're trying to please people or looking for approval or whatever, throw out any phrase you want for that. But I think that so somewhere around in college, I went to school for journalism, and I think journalism taught me there's a lot of problems in the world. And I thought at that time that one good way to be a contributor to society was to document problems, to tell people about them, to report about them, and I think your podcast, you talk about your dreams and that sort of thing, and I was thinking about that coming into this, and I was just thinking about how dreams change, how your world perspective change, how everything changes as you get older. not necessarily for the better, I mean, I just think situations change.
Mm-hmm.
Pandemics hit, stock markets crash. There's things that you have to adjust your goals and dreams. And so um, that's a long answer to, I don't know where I started doing that.
But the thing that I really love is that you're conscious of it. Like you've paid attention to it, and you know that
Oh,
is
sure.
something you love and that you're passionate about. So how much time do you actually analyze like your dreams and your goals and stuff changing? Because I think this is a super important piece that people don't pay attention to, because like I think back to a couple of years ago, I flash back to when I was 19 years old, and my dream was totally this left field thing that was going to
Sure.
happen. And, now flash forward, and it's crazy over the course of the last 7.5 years where I'm at now. It's like, this wasn't even in my dream. This wasn't even close to in my dream. And my life is so beyond happier than I could have ever imagined it when I was
Sure.
19.
I mean, 13 years ago, if you had said to me, hey, 13 years from now, you're going to be a CEO of a distillery, I would have been like,
What?
what you talking about? Yeah. It wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, I mean, I was engaged about that time. I had my life was going down a completely different course.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a worse course, just a different course.
Yeah.
And then the mortgage crisis of 2008 hit, and I had owned a mortgage company at the time. And that was a shocker to the system. When you're rolling along in a career you've been doing for 10, 12 years, and suddenly it just stops.
Yeah.
And you're still on the hook for your office rental and your employees and everything else. And you suddenly have to make a big change. And that happened to so many people,
Right.
construction people. So 2008, 2009 was just a shocker to my system, along with, a lot of other people. And that's an eye opener. It makes you realize that your dreams and goals, sometimes you don't get to choose.
Yep.
Sometimes they're going to say, whoa, that's not what you get to do. That's not the path you're going to go down. And, and it's funny, again, going into this, I was thinking about a couple of things, and I thought, what's the difference between a dream and a goal? And I don't know if that's something you've addressed in your show or not. But, to me, a dream is a slightly higher aspiration with a certain kind of whimsical fantasy element to it, right? It's like, it's easy for me to set goals. We're going to sell this many, and we're going to implement a plan to do that. I don't know that those types of goals, I would say, fit my dream, right? My dreams are a little more whimsical.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting thought process just to go through that. It's kind of like I was thinking about from like a weight standpoint. I mean, I have a goal to get under 200 pounds.
Right.
I have a dream of being like 165.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
So
that's a really good thought, because I haven't ever really, I guess, never really dabbled into it. I think that's a really interesting thing. So, I mean, I'd love to riff off of that. I'd love to think about it, because for me, I feel like dreams themselves are things that you would, hope for your life. People always say goals are dreams that have a plan in place for them, or something similar along those lines. I don't know what the exact phrasing is on it. I'm not great with remembering stuff. But which is terrible for the job that I'm in. But it's very interesting to think about, because I feel like a lot of people do have these dreams, and part of me wonders if some of those dreams are just us deciding that somewhere subconsciously that's just never something that could ever happen, But it almost
I
leads
don't
to
disagree.
it almost leads to like a, but why not?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's always a bunch of why nots. That's
Right.
why.
Right.
Because there's what, I mean, you can make up all kinds of scenarios. Like, let's just say somebody wants to go rescue dolphins or something,
Right.
save
Right.
save the killer whales or
Yep.
whatever. And say it's a man, and the wife looks at him and goes, you can't do that because, well, you have 3 kids,
Right.
who you need to provide for. Who's going to pay you to go save the whales,
Right.
But on the counter to that is there are people out there being paid to save the whales, right?
Right. Right.
There are people
Absolutely.
who have worked through they've set up their life in that way to go
Hmm.
do that. And I think what happens a lot of times is people just see the hill they have to climb to set their lives up in that sort of way. And it's overwhelming,
Absolutely.
right? It requires a dramatic change
Hmm.
and probably some negotiation with family and
Right.
friends and judgment from
Hmm.
society.
Right.
And, I don't know how many people I know who, well, there's an interesting thing that's going on in society that I've paid attention to because I felt I was kind of one of the early explorers of it in a way is the whole concept of van life,
I love it.
right?
Yeah.
People are buying vans and going out and living in them, right?
Hmm.
So in 2015, I bought a van.
Nice.
I was ready to go live that life. I still have it. I love it. I don't get to go out in it as much as I'd like, and because I have job responsibilities,
Right.
right? And I have goals for the business, and so my goals for the business don't quite coincide with
Right.
going out and just camping every day.
Yeah.
you know,
Unfortunately. Yeah.
I guess I mean you have to. I guess there's a time and a place, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's not to say that and I don't even know if that's a dream I have anymore,
Yeah.
right? Because actually I've dabbled with it. And I think that's the other thing that's interesting about our dreams is sometimes they don't live up to the reality of
Right.
what we have, or what we think they would be.
Yeah.
And my experience of getting out in my van and traveling the country is, sometimes it's a pain in the ass to try to figure out where to sleep that night,
Yeah.
because or it's cold, or no one wants to go travel with you, or whatever.
Right.
There's
Right.
all kinds of. So you don't think about all those little aspects until you're living them, and reality is. I'm a very pragmatic person,
Hmm.
but I'm also willing to try a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
right, and see how that works for me. So I don't know. I think you're dabbling in an interesting area,
Yeah.
especially as people. Well, I think a pandemic probably caused people to evaluate their lives a little bit more
Yeah.
introspectively. One, because they're sitting at home with nothing else to do.
Right. Well, I guess I got to face the
So,
person that's inside of me. Right.
exactly. It's that old joke is that, you sure can get tired of yourself type
Hmm.
thing. So,
Yeah.
but
You, I feel like back to your point about dreams and that kind of situation, I feel like it comes down to sacrifice because, you know, at a younger age, 20, 21, 19, 18-ish, it's easier to just drop everything because you don't have those responsibilities and you don't have all of the obstacles to have to navigate. And sure, you have people that are telling you that you can't do it, but you can just give those people really the bird and then just do your own
yeah,
thing,
I
but
I
it
think
comes
that
down
holds
to the
true for single
obstacles.
people too.
Mhm.
Single
Yep.
people, like I'm single,
Mhm.
and I know that my risk tolerance for certain things is way different than somebody who's
Absolutely.
married with a couple kids. I could, like I can take, and when I say risk, mean like financial risk and that sort of
Right.
stuff. Like if I want to go to Windover and blow a bunch of money, no one's going to yell at me for it. I'm going to
Yep.
feel stupid
Right.
on my internally, but no one's going to be mad at me, and no one's going to say, you were, well, my friends might say you were really
Maybe.
stupid, but it's not going to affect their lives,
No.
right? It's not. There's no kids' college money that I'm
Mm.
going like, how am I going to make that up and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think that comes along with youth too. I have a friend. She's 27 now,
Mhm.
and she just spent. She went to college for a while,
Yeah.
and then she went and spent, I think, 2.5 years being a boat steward in the Caribbean, basically
Cool.
crewing a boat, right? I
Yeah.
think there's TV shows about it now, not her, but just
Right.
in general, that kind of lifestyle. And now she's back in Utah, back in school and moving on. And I would guess, I've never asked her this question, but I don't think she would trade those 2 years for anything,
No.
you know? The ocean life and being with dolphins and seeing amazing places in the Caribbean. And but I was talking to her this weekend, and somebody asked the question. I said, "Well, do you consider yourself a mountain person or an ocean person?" And she says, "I'm 100% an mountain person."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Well, great." She went and found that out.
Yep.
She loves the ocean. She misses the ocean, but she also missed the mountains while she was gone,
Yeah.
and was happy to come back to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is foolish because I'm an ocean person.
Yeah.
So, and
You
here
know,
I am in the mountains.
right. I love that though. I think it's so important to go out and pursue those things because you'd never know. You always think
Right.
about it and it's like for me, I feel like the more things that you dabble in throughout your life, the more things that you try, the more sure of yourself you are throughout everything. Because I think back to situations and I feel like if I had been told no in certain situations, like I wouldn't be where I am now. And, just because I decided, okay, McCall, it's fine if you go and discover these things and you see if it's going to be worth it for you, that's been my biggest, I don't know.
I totally agree. I think that I can count on some seminal moments in my life, not the ones like the big career
Hmm.
changes or anything like that, but these moments of realization that I'm kind of wrong in my perspective, um, and and those moments led me to thought processes that made me change my life in dramatic ways.
Yeah.
And so, like, one of them is when we first started this company, I was in St. Louis staying at a friend's place. They gave me a little room up in the attic for, um, like 8 days while I was in St. Louis. And I literally had my laptop and a week's worth of clothes. And I was out, selling our products in the St. Louis area. And I realized during that week that I didn't need much more.
Yeah.
I need a laptop and a week's worth of clothes.
Yeah.
And I promptly came back home and started planning how to minimalize,
Yeah.
because I had a 3,500 square foot home, living by myself with my dog. I had 5 TVs, a theater room, a garage full of crap, 2 jet skis. I had all this stuff. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I am cleaning house. And I did. I sold the house. When I left that situation, I had a desk, a love sack, and a little kitchenette table for eating on. That's in my bed. That was it. I got rid of books, everything, and I thinned out all my clothes and I narrowed everything down. And this was about 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to change that lifestyle where my possessions were owning me versus me owning my possessions. And what happens is things start creeping back in,
Yep.
and 10 years later, I still am nowhere near where I was, but things have crept into I have couches now,
Whoa, couches. That's a lot.
yeah, I have 3 or 4 books floating around instead of the library I had.
Yeah.
But the other thing that happened to me was a very similar situation. I've been lucky enough to go to Greece 3 of the last 4 years.
Wow.
And my first year in Greece, I was just like, same thing. Here I am. Took an iPad this time,
Yeah.
and a week's worth of clothes, and I just kept thinking, like, how long could I just live like this, like where I don't have to do anything,
Yeah.
And that's where you start coming back to that whole dreams thing, right?
Yep.
Like, I dream of traveling the world with a week's worth of clothes and an iPad,
Yeah.
and that's quite fanciful, and I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
But I think someday that's the direction I'm headed, is being a little bit more of a vagabond
Yeah.
and seeing the world. Because the very last thing I would reference that is life changing, and I don't know how many people think about it or how many break it down this way, but you do. It's hard not to think about your life in a different way. I say it's how many summers do I have left?
Yep.
Right. And I mean, let's say
Absolutely.
the average age is, that most people die is like 75. Let's, rounding.
Right.
So if you're 30, you've got 45 more summers. That's not a lot.
No.
If you're 50, it's 25, right? That's especially if we live our lives for summer vacations.
Right.
I mean, think about that. If you're 50, you have 25 more options for your summer vacation. And man, the way I see it, the world's much bigger than that.
Yeah.
I've got lots more places to see.
Right.
So those are just some of the things that have affected my way of thinking.
Yeah.
And again, for me, it's much different, I think, than because my risk level.
Right.
If I had a wife and I started selling all her stuff, she'd probably go like, "What are you doing?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She'd probably be a little bit upset with that.
Yeah. So what do you mean we got to get rid of the minivan?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's really important to touch on that though, because I feel like the way that your perspective is the way that a lot of people should be operating. I really genuinely do think that, because would you say right now that you are way less happy without a gigantic house, without all of the things that you had?
Oh, condo living is
Fantastic.
the best.
It's fantastic, and that's
my garbage just disappears. There's no snow. There's
nope.
I love it, honestly.
It's so important to realize that, like you said, your possessions should not own you. You are supposed to be living this fantastic life that you don't get a do-over on. This is your life. If this is what you want to be doing, then I feel like more people need to be doing that, paying attention to living your life every single day as if you're good if something happens.
Yeah. Well, for sure. And I'll say this though, I have to be careful because I don't want people. I have surrogate possessions.
Mm-hmm.
So like I always say, I used to have a dog and he passed away a couple years ago, and I had him 14 years. He lived a great life, right?
Yeah,
He was a
absolutely.
wonderful dog. And he would come to work with me all the time and everything. And now my assistant brings her dog.
Oh.
People always ask me, like, am I ever going to get another dog? I'm like, I got a dog 8 hours a day. Are you kidding me? I don't have to feed it. I don't have to walk it. I don't have to do it. I got this great dog that I don't have to do anything with, right?
Yeah.
But the same thing is like when you're the CEO of a company, you have surrogate possessions. You have that company possessions. You have, we have vehicles. We have all those things. So I still get to experience the toil of having all these. I was thinking today, I was driving our company van to go pick up something. I went, I'm responsible for 5 vehicles right now. It's like, how did I get in that situation when I'm trying to minimize,
Yeah.
But they're not mine, right? And if I, were to pass away or something, they didn't belong to somebody else, and somebody else would take over that responsibility. So I get the responsibility without the ownership, and there's something peaceful for me about that. Right. It's a whole different story if your personal car is breaking down versus, the work car.
Right.
So I don't want it to sound like I have abdicated all my responsibility, because that's not the case at all.
No.
But my personal life is just much more simpler and easier to maintain without all that. And if anybody walked into my place right now, they'd go, "You're not a minimalist." I mean, I'm just saying I have minimized
Yeah.
compared to where I was.
Yeah.
And I did go full blown minimalist for a little while,
Yeah.
but yeah, possessions have crept back in.
Yeah.
So,
Would you say simplifying your life, your personal life has made it easier to focus like for work?
um, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are people who would classify me on the workaholic side of
Hmm.
things. I mean, but again, it's the passion for building the business,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's work hard, play hard, rest hard.
Yeah.
You know, there's, and, and, and in the business I'm in, there's a blend between work and social.
Hmm.
You know, like I think you mentioned earlier, you were axe throwing today.
I was.
Like
Yeah.
I'm sponsoring an axe throwing league that I'll go throw axes at tonight,
That's awesome.
which, but yeah, and it'll be fun. It's, you know, that's my social outing, but it's also
It's work.
work related,
Yep.
you know, and so there's this weird blend of that sometimes it can feel like you're working all the time.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the fun part. That's where you come back to say, hey, if you're not having fun, we shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
And so, and again, it's so much easier when you don't have the responsibility of answering to other humans
Right.
from a family standpoint. So I always try to, you know, it's easy to sit here and go like, go live your dreams. And someone's
Right.
like,
Right. Right.
screw you, I'm got to mow the grass.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
have you ever quit something because it wasn't fulfilling?
um, phew, relationships,
Yeah.
um, quit something because it wasn't fulfilling. I think that, oh, for sure. But I think more so in my younger days,
Hmm.
you know, when you're talking about being, you know, that 19, 20,
Yeah.
21, 22, it's much easier to kind of, um, you know, when I moved here from Austin, Texas, working for the IRS, and
Hmm.
I was doing computer work, and it was unfulfilling.
Yeah.
And that's when I, you know, realized I wanted to go back to school and do something that was more community oriented. You know, went to school for journalism and that sort of stuff. So, you know, I quit that job just because I didn't see it as being, I couldn't imagine spending the next 30 years of my life at the IRS.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went into the wonderfully low paying job of a journalist.
Hmm.
And, you know, after a few years, I realized, you know, like this is fulfilling as heck, but you can hardly pay the rent.
Right.
Right. And so that's when I kind of made a transition into the real estate mortgage world, because I had friends who were just making, they seemed quite fulfilled and making a lot of money,
Yeah.
you know, and, and I, and I think I actually enjoyed the mortgage business a lot at the
Hmm.
time, because I was really good at it, being very analytical. I was able to help people with their problems, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but then the world forced me out of that.
Right.
And I would say forced. I could have kept going in it, but it offered me another opportunity, which was the distillery,
Hmm.
which came with its own set of challenges and um, you know, it's a puzzle that I'm constantly working on every day.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'd say yeah, I've moved on moved on from stuff. At the same time, it's for different reasons,
Yeah.
you know, whether it's financial or just not enjoying um, what the day in day out was.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So would you say like the stuff that happened back in '08 with the mortgage industry as a whole, do
Hmm.
you think that helped you try and adapt and shift a little bit this year? Because obviously things this year are a little bit different than what happened then. But being able to tackle the problem, because obviously you weren't going to have as much distribution through the distillery this year based on, you know, parties and get-togethers basically being canceled, and you guys adapted this year to transitioning into the hand sanitizer type thing. Do you think that helped you?
I don't. That's again another good question. and I don't know the answer if I'll I think that taught me not to fear the unknown
Mhm.
as much as I probably did before 2008, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I would say, I my personality is I'm an opportunist.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so when I saw the opportunity to make hand sanitizer, um, I didn't know where it was going to go or how it was going to be. I just saw it as a potential opportunity for us to make a difference
Yeah.
and make an income
Of
while
course.
we didn't know what the future was going to hold. And so um, I think my mentality, 2008 brought probably the mentality of don't miss an opportunity if it presents itself,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because you don't know what's around the corner. And I did not realize, the day that we'd put hand sanitizer on sale, we would have a line of 200 people deep. I didn't know that we'd have the military at our door
Yeah.
begging for hand sanitizer, or the Union Pacific guys for the trains. I didn't know how unprepared our country was
Yeah.
for this situation. And we had a crazy 60 days
Yeah.
of hands. I mean, insane 60 days where it was just people at our door the whole time. Um, so it, I don't know if I can draw the line all the way back, but I can say that I've learned to try not to pass up an opportunity if it presents itself.
Yeah. And I
So
think that's a big lesson that a lot of people do need to learn as well, because a lot of people do shrink when it comes to the unknown, and of course it's intimidating, it's terrifying. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think looking at it from more of a opportunist perspective, I think is really important.
yeah, and I mean, I think that you know it's what's the old saying, something um, luck plus per, when something an opportunity is when luck meets preparedness, or something
Mhm.
along those lines. um, you know and when the hand sanitizer thing hit, as I said, that was on a Wednesday, March 18th. I have a print shop across my parking lot at my old location. We've since moved into our new location.
It's
Okay.
beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ellis Printing was right across our parking lot, right?
Mhm.
So, and we've had bottle suppliers that we've worked with in the past, providing mini bottles for us and that sort of thing. Um, so really, all it was getting my team in a room and saying, what boxes do we need to check to make this happen?
Yeah.
Okay, go ask the printing guys if they can have labels done by Friday. Go ask the bottle guys if they can have us some bottles on Friday. Go, um, go get the bark we need. Go get, we're a manufacturer. All the parts were already in place.
Right.
Um, you know, the ingredients weren't. We emptied out every Walmart in a 10-mile radius
Yeah.
of hydrogen peroxide. But, I mean, that's really what it was, I'm a huge list maker when it comes to big projects.
Mhm.
Like, you know, here's my 30 things that have to be done. Now, who's going to do them? And let's get them done. And the beautiful thing about that is when your list is done, you've accomplished it,
Yep.
right? It's like, I just, I don't know. There's, how do you eat an elephant? Just one bite
Right.
at a time, right?
Right.
Um, and I've had moments in my life where I've been overwhelmed. I bought a house one time that had been lived in by hoarders, and they left it.
Mm.
They vacated.
Bless.
And when I got it, I literally sat there and thought, how am I going to do this? And it's like, every time I went up the stairs from the basement, I took a thing with me.
Yep.
And by the time, that next 10 days ended, the basement was cleared out,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's how you have to face life. And,
Yeah.
um, they're hardly heroic things. They're just things you have to do,
Right. Right.
so.
I think that goes back to your problem solving though. I feel like that ties in very closely with it based on your personality and being willing and driven to try and solve problems, being able to make those lists. Cause like for me, I suck at lists. Like it is nobody's business, but for somebody that wants to solve problems and loves the process of building businesses, I think it's cool. I love it.
Here's the problem with liking to solve problems.
There's more that come
you
up.
always get to be having problems.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like,
And
where's
there's
the
a
next
point where
challenge?
you go like, I'm good. I've solved enough problems. But
yeah,
it's true. We have our human nature and our personalities, and
yeah,
and there's nothing more rewarding to know you've worked through something or overcome something, or come up with a good idea. And hardly, we're a very collaborative team at Ogden Zone. It's not just me. It's not just Tim who makes stuff. It's our gin that we make. We spent 2 years going through renditions of it and taste testing with people, and and so a lot of times you have to set your own personality aside, and no one gets to just run with it, because coming back to that whole relationship thing, when you're in a business, you have relationships with people,
right?
And you can't just overrun the whole thing.
No.
Like my role is to be CEO, but to me, my role is to keep it all together in the context of everybody still working together. And
right.
It's not like I'm an autocrat or anything, though some would say I'm wrong. So, but it's I don't know. Life is just short. I just don't squander it. You only have so many summers left. And I really, if anybody takes anything from this, is like, hey, I'm going to do the math, and I'm going to think about how I want to spend those summers.
Yeah.
Because, and that's if you're lucky,
yep.
right?
Yeah.
There's, you never know. You never know. I have a friend who, he's always kind of thinking the worst about where his, in a situation,
mm-hmm.
and he's talking down the road, and I'm like, dude, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
No,
you never know.
No.
So, don't wait around.
No.
For things. And I realize as I say that, I'm probably waiting around for a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the process. You have
right.
to prioritize and figure it out, make lists of how you're going to get
mm-hmm.
there, and check them off one at a time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah, you never know when things are just going to be done. So, they always say be kinder than necessary. And I feel like that also applies to it,
Sure. Well, yeah. Well, and I assume you live in Salt Lake, correct?
No, I don't. I live in Logan.
You live in Logan. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Salt Lake, we call it Small Lake City, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what? You're going to be dealing with people
yep.
over and over. So,
yep.
It is better to be kind. It is better to leave things on good footing. It is better to not burn bridges,
yep.
even in a bigger city, because you know what? You're going to be working with these people for the next 20, 30 years if you're staying in your community.
Yep.
Because it turns out that most people who do stuff, who make shit happen type
yep.
thing, they're the same people over and over and over again.
Exactly.
So to me, maintaining relationships and having good relationships with people, at a working level,
right.
is super important,
Yeah.
So probably even more so in Logan.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. So Steve, where can people find you social media wise? Where can they find Ogden Zone Distillery information at?
Yeah. So we have so much social media.
Love that.
Yeah. We have Five Wives Vodka on Facebook. We have Madame Patarini Gin on Facebook, Porter's Whiskeys on Facebook, and Underground Herbal Spirit on Facebook. And they all have their own Instagram pages as well. We call our social media site is Feeding the Beast because it's a beast to manage. And and then Ogden's own distillery has its own site, or Facebook page and stuff. But we tend to build brands. We're not worried about the distillery itself. Because we're building alcohol, spirit brands. And then I'm on Instagram under Steve_Conlin_photo, where I kind of just highlight my photo work. I was a photojournalist working for newspapers back in the day, and that photojournalism aspect still remains, even though it's not, it remained as a little hobby. So you could find me there. That's where we're at.
Awesome.
So,
and then is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground. And I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the opportunity just to, usually people have me on just to talk about business, and it's kind of fun to check your own thought processes and go into something and so lots of times we think about things internally and they're not real until we put them out there. And so just even going through the process and saying the words that are rattling around your head can truly affect you in a different way than just driving down the road pondering stuff. So appreciate that opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for being on, Steve.
Okay.
And this has been Quit Your Damn Job.
You have to follow your gut and you have to listen to your own intuition and then follow through.